The number one plugin that is missing from GarageBand here on the iPhone or the iPad is a good limiter that we can use to enhance our track. So in this video, I'm going to be taking a look at the FAC Maxima, which is a limiter plugin that you can use on your iPhone or your iPad here in GarageBand. Let's go. Hi, my name is Pete. This is Studio Live Today, where I help you create, record, and release your best music. And now if you're creating music in GarageBand in iOS, especially on the iPhone or even the iPad, then you will have noticed that we have compressors, we have EQs, we have reverb, we have delay. We do not have a limiter. And that is a big missing piece, because a limiter can help you compress your sound in such a way that you're bringing that overall level. Have you ever had a track that you're like, the vocals are just not popping, the drums are not cutting through, those guitars are sounding weak and flat? Well, this is what a limiter plugin can do for your track. So in this video, I'm taking a first look at the FAC Maxima, a limiter plugin here in iOS. Here we are in GarageBand on the iPhone, and we're going to use this to demo this plugin, this limiting, maximizing plugin, and I'm going to do it on the individual tracks. So we've got some guitars, we've got some vocals, and we've got some drums here. Now, in a future video, I'm going to show you how we can use this as a limiter for our mastering, which I know a lot of folks are interested in. So if you're not already subscribed, then subscribe to the channel, and we'll take a look at that in a future video. But for now, I just wanted to run you through the interface of this plugin and show you what it can do on some of these individual tracks, because limiting can be really cool on an individual track as well. So let's take a listen to how this song sounds at the moment. I crossed the road and never even look one way. So it's sounding okay. I've done my static mix, I've got my automation in there, I've got some effects, I've got some EQ, it's going along well. But let's see if we can use some limiting or this Maxima plugin to add a little bit more punch to some of these tracks. Let's start with the drums, because apparently this is a good plugin to use for our drums and gives them some punch. So we're going to tap on the little mixer icon, we're going to go to plugins and EQ, and we're going to tap edit here. Now, a limiter should go at the end of your chain. So I'm going to tap on the plus button at the bottom here, and then I'm going to go to Audio Unit Extensions and tap on FAC Maxima. And you can see now that it has been applied. And if we tap on the little icon here, it is going to drop us in to the FAC Maxima, ready to go and ready to accept our limiter settings here in GarageBand. So before we take a listen to what this sounds like, let's go through the interface really quickly. On the left here, we've got our input gain here. So this is how much gain is going into the limiter. We've got our metering in the middle there, which has a whole bunch of options that I haven't even explored yet, but it's very, very cool. We've then got the three red dials here. So we've got our threshold, which is at what level the limiter is going to kick in. We've got how quickly the limiter is going to reset. And then we've got some sort of mid boost here. I haven't actually read up in detail about what that does exactly, but we will get to that in a future video, I'm sure. We've then got our detector, which is how quickly the limiter kicks in. It's either slow, medium, fast, or instantaneous. And then we've got our filter. So we've got a low cut, a high boost, both, and a clean signal. We'll leave it on clean for now. Finally, we've got our dry, wet knob. That can be anything from 0, which means that there'll be no effect, all the way up to 100%, which is going to apply 100% of the limiting or the maximizing on the actual sound. And then the very last thing, we've got a output gain knob, so that we can dial up or dial down to make up any gain or to reduce the gain at the end of the chain. Finally, we've got our little switch here where we can turn the Maxima on or off right here on the plugin. And down the bottom here, we have our presets. So we can tap on that, and then we've got a whole bunch of presets. So if none of those options meant anything to you and you got totally lost in that, do not worry, because we have included in here a whole bunch of presets. In fact, let's tap on the drums classic and use this as the basis for giving our drums a little bit of extra kick here in this track. Now, the good thing about a plugin like this that has its own little on-off switch here is that we can turn it off, play back our sound, and then hear what it actually sounds like with the limiting applied. So what I'll do is I'll drive down this, and in fact, I'll turn it back on, but I'll just have the dry, wet, and 100% dry. And let's just, with the absolute default drum settings, dial in some of this limiting and see what the effect has on our drum sound here now. across the road and... So there you go, you can hear that it gives the drums a lot of pop and just a real punch there. You can hear the kick drums got more punch, the top end, the cymbals, you can hear them more clearly, but it's not at a cost of the actual quality. So as opposed to just bumping up the volume or using other sorts of compression, the beauty of limiting is that you are raising up the volume, you're giving it more punch, but you're doing it and you've got complete control over how you set that and when that extra punch is coming in. So you'll notice there that I dialed it all the way up and then I dropped it back. So I've got it around about 40% here. What I'll do now is I'll turn it off and then I'll play back and then I'll bring it on and off, and you'll just be able to hear the difference between without the limiter and then with the limiter added. Never even look one way. I always seem to know the perfect thing to say, and I don't even wave at other cars when I pass by. Don't have the time, you know I'm such a special guy, and all my friends... So you can just really hear that it's giving the drums some punch, yeah? And yes, the volume is louder too, so keep that in mind. Absolutely. When you're limiting, you do have to be careful because things tend to sound better when they're louder. So if you're playing it back and you're going, oh, the limiting sounds really great, then what you might want to do is come down here and drop your volume down a little bit and just play with that. I won't do that in this video, but for future reference, if you really want to compare a limited and non-limited signal, then you might want to play with your volume as well. But you can just hear that it's really giving those drums some punch. And if we solo those, for instance, let's just take a listen to those. And then if we use this blue button here to turn off our limiter, again, you can just hear it's giving that some real punch. So loving the FAC Maxima on the drums. I think especially once I start playing around with a lot more of these settings and tweaking it, then I'm going to be able to get an even better drum sound here in GarageBand. And this is something that I've been looking for a very long time. So let's hit done on that one. And now, let's come in and take a look at some vocals, shall we? Because that's the other most important thing that we really want to get right and get sitting right in the mix. So let's take a listen, or actually we'll come in here and we'll tap on our mixer icon. We'll go to plugins and EQ, and once again we'll tap edit, and yes, thankfully we've got a little slot down here. Now if you don't have a slot, you can delete another effect because there is a limited number of slots that we have here, but we'll tap that audio unit FAC Maxima, and here we have it on our vocals now. So I'll use this time the limiter fast reset, and remember, you can absolutely play with all of these different presets. You can even save your own preset in here if you tweak something and you've got it to the point where you want to use it on a future project. So, and we'll look at that more in more detail once I've gotten used to this plugin, but I really just wanted to give you a first look here today. So let's go back in there now. We're going to keep hitting done. I didn't mean to hit done. I've got to select one. Okay. There we go. We've selected our limiter fast reset default, and now let's hit play on this track with our vocal, and once again I'll dial it in slowly just so that you can hear the difference that it's going to make on this track. It's doggy dog out there, so why not man eat man? And all my friends are telling me that I might be insane, but I'm not even listening 'cause I'm never to blame. Now with the vocal, you can hear that as soon as I dial it up sort of past about half or 3/4, it gets really sort of crispy at the top end. And that's because I've already added quite a lot of compression already. So the limiter is sort of adding to that. A limiter is just a compressor, remember? A limiter is just a compressor that has like a limit on it. So it's got a brick wall at the end. It's not going to compress past the point of 0 dB. So for this one, what I would do in future tracks, now that I have the FAC Maxima, is I would probably use less compression and more of this particular plugin. So I'm going to go pretty light on it here because I've already got that compression on there. But let's do our little test again. We'll turn it off here. I'm going to play back and then I'm going to turn it back on at even at 25% and just hear how much more pop I'm going to get out of this track. Help if I get a better section where I'm actually singing, yeah? So let's come down here to this section and we will come back into our plugin and try that again. Everyone is saying I'll regret it in the end, They keep saying karma's catching up with you, my friend, and I don't hear it when they laugh at me and tell me you're so... So you can hear it's just sitting up and it's more present. And that's one of the questions I get asked a heap from people is how do I get my vocals to be really upfront and present in my mix? I've tried compression, I've tried EQ, it's not working. Well, limiting may be the answer, and this FAC Maxima seems to be, so far, a pretty cool option for getting that pop and that real presence in a vocal as well. Okay, the last thing I'm going to demo here is our acoustic guitars, because these I think are going to benefit from some limiting as well. The acoustic guitar is an instrument that responds well to compression and limiting because it is such a dynamic instrument, and you can hit the chords and the notes too loud and too soft, so using limiting can actually even out that performance quite well. Let's take a listen to just our guitars soloed as they are right now. So sounding pretty good there, yeah. So I'm pretty happy with the sound. I've got the EQ, I've got the compression. So again, like the vocals, we're not going to need a whole lot here, but let's just come in here and go to our plugins and EQ. I'm going to tap edit. We're going to go to the bottom here and we're going to go audio unit extensions, FAC Maxima. Now again here, you'll see that the visual EQ is the last one here. So I'm actually going to change that order. I'm going to tap edit and I'm going to just drag this down and change the order of my plugins here. I've got a video about how to change the order of plugins that you can check out on the channel as well. So that is added there. We're going to hit done. And now let's just quickly do the same here on our second acoustic, because these are two mirrored acoustics. Well, they're left and right panned acoustics that I've doubled here. So we will do the same there, and there we're good to go. Now we're going to have to come in here and dial in some settings. So this time, how about we just go with the slow reset on both of these. So we'll do the same on the other one. You can see how quick it gets to actually use these, especially if you're just dialing in some presets here. It can be quite quick to get the plugin going on here. We'll drop these down. Now this is going to be a little bit trickier because I've got it on two different tracks here. So what we'll do is I'll dial it in at, say, 50% here, and I've got it on there. I'll do the same here for this one. I'll dial it in at 50%. Just using the default. And again, I can't stress enough that I'm only using the presets here. This is a first look. We'll be diving in more detail in the future, but I'm just super excited that we have a good limiter here on the iPhone that we can use here in GarageBand. So I'm going to hit done, and there we go. So what I'll do now is I'll turn these off, and then we'll play back the track, including all the tracks here, and I'll turn them back on as we go through, and you'll hear the difference of the limiter kicking in here. So yes, I've got some volume adjustment to do because again, I've already done my compression, I've done my EQ, I've done my volume automation. So this wasn't an amazing track to demonstrate this on for that purpose, because in hindsight, what I should have done is actually use the limiter instead of a lot of that heavy compression. So if I had some lighter compression, the limiting would be even better. But even still, you can hear the sound there. You can hear that it's just giving it some more presence. And yes, it's volume. Again, I can't stress that enough, that volume will make things sound better. If they're louder, they'll just be like, wow, it's just cutting through more. So be really careful of that. But with all of these different options that we have here in the FAC Maxima, I'm pretty excited, as you can probably tell, about what we can do with this plugin, because to me it is the first time we've got the limiter. I know we've got the other limiter. Probably the thing to show here, and I've showed this in the past, is that we've got, let's just come down to our drums. We don't have a lot of effects. We do have, under audio unit extensions, we have, I can't even find it now, the peak limiter here, which is the Apple default one, where you can see the difference here. We've got attack, release, and gain. Like, they're the only three options that we have on that. And you know the problem with this is as soon as you go out of a project and back in, it resets the settings. So it makes it kind of useless for especially doing individual tracks. It's okay for mastering, but for doing individual tracks, no good. Whereas the FAC Maxima seems to be, again, this is the first look, it's early stage, stages, but it seems to be a very cool option for giving our drums some punch, our guitars and our vocals that extra punch, and I really can't wait to put this through its paces. Once I learn all the features and learn all the functions, put it through its paces and use it as a mastering plugin as well. So that is going to do it for this little example here. I've got to get back and continue tweaking these settings to make this track sound really good, get those volumes right, and to make it really pop. And there you have it, my first look at the FAC Maxima here in GarageBand on the iPhone. Now this is filling a big gap that I've wanted for a long time, and especially on the iPhone, but also the iPad. But on the iPhone we don't have things like Final Touch to do our mastering, so I'm really looking forward to putting this plugin through its paces as a mastering plugin on my master track. That'll be coming up in a future video, so if you're not already subscribed to the channel, I suggest you do that so that you can check out that video when it's released. Head on over to the App Store if you're interested and search for FAC Maxima and check out the plugin there by Fred Anton Corvest. Thanks for watching. If you've got comments, questions, or suggestions or ideas for your own plugins and your own apps that you think are cool, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you on the next video. Hey, thanks for sticking around. There are 2 more videos linked right down below that you can check out right now. You can also subscribe to the channel by clicking on the Studio Live Today icon in the top right corner, or head on over to studiolivetoday.com for more audio goodness.